Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
the struggle, the ASU strike.
You have done your work, you have put us to the wall. We are not your slaves.
I'm not a small boy. You should have given me the report.
I have not seen the report.
Good morning. Welcome to Global Television. This is Global Morning. I'm Muyi Agmofwebe in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Again, we appreciate your time starting off your Tuesday with us, second weekday. I mean, what can we say? Then just stay grateful and keep our eye on the goal. For us at Global Television, that's exactly what we are doing for you as well, to keep our focus on conversations that matter to you. Incidentally, this morning we have two of such conversations. The first being one that has so strong a political angle to it, and then it also has a very significant economic plank, and that is talking about the 2024 appropriation. I mean, the budget as we know it. Recall that the budget had been passed last year, it was 2023, and was signed into law by the president on the 1st of January. I mean, one would have thought at that point, going forward, the focus would be on implementation and monitoring of how the budget is being executed. But that hasn't been the case, quite frankly, because as it stands right now, the conversation is now about discrepancies between what the Senate had debated. I mean, the National Assembly as a whole, particularly the Senate, had debated and approved vis-a-vis what the executive is now executing. Saturday, just this last Saturday, Senator Ningi, who happens to be the leader of the Northern Senate Caucus, had granted an exclusive interview to the British Broadcasting Corporation, that is the BBC, during which he had accused the executive of implementing a budget that the Senate neither debated nor approved. As a matter of fact, he says, look, there's a whole lot of fundamental difference between what we debated and approved on the one hand and what we now see the Bola Tinubu government or Bola Tinubu-led administration executing. Then he says the budget, by his own estimation, has been padded by at least 3 trillion naira. That's a whole lot of money, by the way. But it isn't just only about the money, it is also about the fact that Nigeria has had a history of budget padding, even starting from the days of former President Jonathan. But then it appears to be a phenomenon now that the country has to deal with or tackle at this point, or otherwise we're going to continue to have this back and forth between the legislature, particularly the upper chamber, which is the Senate, and the executive on the other hand. Of course, as expected, those in the presidency have come out to say, look, there was never a time the budget was padded. In fact, there's no discrepancy between what the National Assembly had approved and what the executive is now executing. In fact, the presidency now says that if anything had happened in terms of padding at all, it has to be the senators who had padded the budget. And then this becomes more interesting, knowing that as of this morning, in fact, as of yesterday, the Northern Caucus of the Senate had even distanced themselves from the allegation that has been advanced by Senator Ningi himself, a ranking senator, one with clouts and sizable influence within and outside of the Senate. But again, these developments, regardless of who is speaking the truth or who isn't, speaks to how that there's so much of obscurity in terms of how our budgetary process works. The opaqueness that is associated with it is very, very concerning, because as it stands right now, it is a case of your word against mine. So we're going to have that conversation in the course of the show this morning. But there's also one that is much bigger, has been here for decades, the power sector problem. As of today, even the Minister of Power himself, Adelabu, has come out very clearly to say, look, There's crisis in the power sector. And he says, in particular, in the last couple of weeks, Nigerians have had to grapple with acute power outages, which, of course, across the country has become a very disturbing phenomenon. We want to talk about all of this morning, but quickly, let's join Fatima Umar as we see what your taste bud feels like this morning, and looking at taste and texture.
To another mouth-watering episode on Taste and Texture. I am Fatima Aboma. I know this might sound funny, but it's true. Nigerians have come up with yet another innovation of Gari chips. Prepare your own Gari chips from your comfort home. It's so tasty, delicious, crunchy. I bet you don't want to miss the taste. Gari is one of Nigeria's most affordable and easy accessible foods. Gari can actually be said to be Nigeria's staple. However, as much as Gari is appreciated for its taste, affordability, versatility, shelf life, it is massively underrated as a source of nutrition. It's amazing how little the public know about the nutritional values of those crispy white flakes. The ingredients needed for Gari chips are 1 cup of Gari, 1 sachet powdered milk, 1 egg, 2 teaspoonfuls of sugar, groundnut oil. Sugar or any sweetener can serve like honey to make enrich the nutritional benefit. And now let's make the Gari chips. Mix the Gari, milk, sugar in a bowl and keep aside. Pour the mixture of Gari, milk, sugar into the bowl of hot water and stir for a while. Allow the Gari mixture to get cool to a point where you can insert your hands. Get some quantity and mold to your choice shape. Add groundnut oil, not just any oil. Put a non-stick frying pan on the fire. Add your oil, lowering the temperature to normal, not too high, not too low, to avoid burning. Fry till it gets brownish. Serve, and guess what? It's so delicious. And now to the health benefits. It improves eye health. Contrary to popular opinion, Gari is quite good for the eyes. Gari can contribute to prevention of cancer. Gari does aid in prevention of cancer. Gari contains the vitamins amygdalin, also known as vitamin B17. Vitamin B17 helps to stimulate the content of red blood cells. Red blood cells containing a special protein called hemoglobin, which helps to carry oxygen from lungs to the rest of the body and then returns carbon dioxide from the body to the lungs so it can be exhaled. Gari contains folate, which is a vitamin that boosts several essential body functions, including some of the following. Folate promotes tissue growth, boosts optimal cell functionality. It combines with the other vitamins to help the body break down, utilize, and create proteins. Folate helps convert carbohydrates into energy. Minerals such as copper and magnesium and the vitamins like B17 play an important role in the maintenance of health, bones, nerves, and immune system of the body. Such roles cannot be brushed aside or seen as unnecessary. Just think of Gari as a soldier fighting your internal battles. That's all for now. See you same time next time for another episode on Taste and Texture. I'm Fatima Abba Umar.
Yes, I was fascinated by those very interesting recipes and culinary ideas put together by Fatima Umar and her team. All right, so we'll look forward to tomorrow and see what brilliant idea you come up with once again. All right, so just a while ago, I was talking about the power sector and what Adebayo Adelabu, the Minister of Power in Nigeria, has now referred to as crisis in the sector. Of course, as always, he has said Nigerians have to exercise some patience, build confidence in the government, trust the authorities to fix these, because according to him, when it's all said and done, that is when this crisis has been tackled and addressed, Nigerians would also end up singing the praises of this government. Of course, by all means, every right-thinking Nigerian looks forward to that, right? But he has also made a proposition, right? He says the government is now working towards increasing power capacity to 6,500 megawatts from the current, give or take, a neighborhood of 4,500 megawatts. But hold on a second. Recall, not too long ago, just a few years ago, we had a minister in this country of power, who, by the way, also doubled as Minister of Works and Housing, talking about former Lagos State Governor Raji Fashola, who at that time obviously had been overwhelmed by these issues as well, right? Because he had said a responsible, proactive, focused, visionary government would fix power sector within 6 months. But he was there for what? Upwards of 3 months, and nothing essentially changed. And today, it is basically same for Nigerians. We're still talking 6,500 megawatts. That's his target. It's not like we're there yet, because as it stands right now, we're hearing that we're doing between 3,000 and 4,500. Most times it drops when you have collapse of the grid, which has happened, very constantly in recent times, right? So the issues are complicated, all right? So the minister says, well, this is doable. We can fix it. And Nigerians are looking forward to that. But he didn't stop there. He also said, look, part of this blame goes to the DISCOs, that is the distribution companies themselves. Last we checked, just for the records, we had 11 DISCOs across this country. But now he says, look, some of these DISCOs are committing infractions and they are becoming more of the problem than they should be finding solution to it. So what has he said, amongst other things? That going forward, some of these DISCOs will be, in his words, balkanized, all right? What that means is you unbundle them. What that means is you reduce the number of, the amount of areas that they cover, so that those unserved areas, those unserved parts of the country will be taken up by new DISCOs, which, as naturally expected, will also have to be licensed, all right, by the authorities, the relevant authorities, to be able to operate. But the question is, why is it so difficult for us to fix power-related problems? People have talked about vested interest, people have talked about cabal, as it's always the case in several key sectors. All right, so is this cabal so strong that it continues to milk the country dry, continue to leave the country in darkness, continue to drag the country back and down economically, continue to embarrass the government, continue to deny this country revenue? Is it how powerful the cabal is? Why is it so difficult for us to do in the power sector what had been done in the telecom sector as well? Of course, again, talking about telecom sector, for which many persons have come to give credit to the Obasanjo-led administration of between 1999 and 2007, they also say, look, the former president, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, shares in the problem that is now plaguing the power sector. But again, that's a story we're going to tell in the course of the program this morning, because the power sector issues are as complicated as they come. Just a while ago, a colleague was asking me, does it even make any sense, economically at least, that people still get virtually same bill that they got when power was a bit more stable? Well, I'm not sure I have a precise answer to that question, but my guest on the show this morning will help us find some sense in it. In the meantime, let's join Kikalamo Okere as she brings us a snapshot of business.
Welcome to Business Report on Global Morning. The Federal Inland Revenue Service has introduced a self-registration modus on the Tax Pro Max platform as part of the reform towards improving the ease of doing business and matching customer-centric approach. This is contained in a public notice signed by the Executive Chairman of FIRS, Zach Adedeji, where he encouraged businesses to take advantage of the new feature. According to the notice, every newly registered business entity can now complete their registration with the FIRS by following the prompt for self-registration. It's noted that the new feature will enable an efficient and transparent tax system that benefits both citizens and the government. The Director General of the National Pension Commission, Aisha Dairu Umar, has denied allegation that the Commission loaned 10 trillion naira to the federal government. The House of Representatives in October adopted a motion mandating its Committee on Pension to recover 10 trillion naira pension fund borrowed by the federal government. Dismissing the claim during an interview over the weekend, Dahiru Umar says PENCOM did not manage pension fund adding that the federal government did not obtain a 10 trillion naira loan from the commission. Responding to claims that PENCOM was owing federal government retirees arrears of pension, Dairo argued that the federal government had consistently met its repayment obligations. Crude oil earning by the federal government increased by 449.93 billion naira in the month of December 2023 and January 2024. An analysis of data in the latest report on Nigerian oil production. Although the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission has yet to release oil production figure for February 2024, its latest data so far indicates that Nigeria's oil output maintained a northward movement in the month of December 2023 and January 2024. The country's oil production increased by 3.88 million barrels in December 2023 when compared to what it pumped in the preceding month of November. Data from the country's economy, a global economic and statistical firm, puts the average cost of Brent, the benchmark for crude oil, at $77.63 per barrel in December 2023. Kikelomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Thank you, Kikelomo, for bringing us some insight into what business has been like from the start of the week, particularly yesterday being Monday. We keep our fingers crossed to see what business turns out to be like today upon resumption of the market. All right, but then we're talking about power sector a while ago, which is an integral and very critical aspect of business. I mean, we're not so certain how businesses will survive and thrive and scale where there's no power. In fact, some people say that's one of the mistakes we have made as a country. We're trying to, we say we're vigorously pursuing infrastructure development. We are vehemently trying to jack up the economy, get it right with fiscal and monetary policies, but then we have relegated power to the background. How come there's so much of hula baloo all of a sudden about Naira dollar, crisis? Everybody is suddenly talking about bureau de change operators. Everybody is talking about round tripping and those who are speculating around the currency and so on and so forth. Why aren't we bringing that same amount of energy, or who knows, maybe just a half of it, to talk about power sector issues? Because this is one element that drives everything else. Because I'm not so sure how much of other things we can do without power. As a matter of fact, even telecoms operators won't be able to do much without power. Even as it stands right now, I mean, with all the private sector initiatives, with all of the alternatives that they're able to whip up, it's still a whole lot of work. Imagine in 2010, for example, one of the leading telecoms operators had said for 1 year, I mean, that year in 2010 in particular, they had spent at least over 600 million, all right, just to be able to buy diesel to power all of their masts or their base stations, across the country. Well over $500 million to buy diesel, all right? So that's how they create alternative to be able to drive business. But let's not also forget, in the final analysis, the cost will land, so to speak, on the head of the end user, which is the subscriber. And that's how it works across all the sectors in this country and everywhere in the world. But here's what the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabo, has also said, that look, metering is one of the concerns that Nigerians have, and it's a very pivotal aspect of the entire value chain as far as power sector is concerned. But don't forget, there's also been the politics of metering for a long time, even backdating or predating, I should say, the time of Tunde Fashola in office as Minister of Power. But now the minister, the current one, says, look, no cause for alarm, because according to him, the government is putting in place and will also put more in place the idea of initiatives and schemes to drive acceleration of metering so that the gap will be covered. And he is saying that it is going to be such that on an annual basis, that is every year, at least 2 million meters will be distributed. So according to him, between 4 to 5 years, all right, the gap would have been entirely covered, or worst case scenario is to have been drastically reduced. But that's a problem. Some persons have said when you go to the offices of most of these, the warehouses of most of these discos as we call them, the distribution companies, you'll find that they have meters in thousands, all right? But the question is, if that is anything to go by, if that story is worth it at all, what is the reason behind the delay or the refusal to give meters to those who have subscribed? I mean, it's agonizing, it's painful, it's disturbing to realize that some persons had applied for meters before former President Muhammadu Buhari came into office in 2015. I mean, think about that for a second. This is 9 years down the line. They still don't have a meter. They have paid. They have done all the paperwork, all the assessments done, but they still don't have a meter. What are they supposed to hold liable for that? One time under former Minister of Power, Fashola, we're told that there was going to be some MAPI scheme, MAPI scheme, all right, that will drive or accelerate the metering process in this country. But we're not so sure if that's all the light of day. As of today, metering is still a challenge. We're still talking about estimated billing. We're still hearing discos, distribution companies say, look, what we are doing is we are billing you based on the average consumption in your area. So I live in a neighborhood, for example, because you have refused to give me a meter, and as such, of course, I do not have a meter, you bring me a bill that is outrageous. And I say, why are you bringing me this kind of bill? And your answer to me is, well, what we do is we just look at the average consumption in this neighborhood of yours, and that determines what we bring to you every other month as your bill. And that happens across the length and breadth of Nigeria. But then it just goes to point to the fact that not only do we need to have very sweeping reforms across the industry, but those reforms must happen as quickly as possible. Let's get some excitement from sports now. Anthony Mamadou has put together for us an update on sports.
Sports fans, welcome to Sports News Update. Pep Guardiola insisted he was happy with Kevin De Bruyne's angry reaction to being substituted after several heated discussions with the Belgian towards the end of the pulsating 1-1 draw with Liverpool at Anfield. De Bruyne was sacrificed to regain control as Liverpool swarmed the City penalty area in the second half and looked furious as he took his seat on the bench. The Catalan described playing at Anfield against Jurgen Klopp's team as like a tsunami after the Reds flooded Manchester City with waves of chances in the 25th minute spell in the second half to stop the champions' control of the game. The game could have gone either way, but Guardiola was delighted with how his team coped with the pressure of Liverpool in the second half after Alexis McAllister cancelled out Jordan Stones' opener from the penalty spot. Jurgen Klopp said he will never forget Liverpool's performance against Manchester City after the teams played out a thrilling 1-1 draw, but the German was furious that the Reds were denied the last gasp penalty when Jeremy Doku clashed with Alexis McAllister. City took the lead in a dominant first half through John Stones, but Liverpool equalized not long after the break when McAllister converted the penalty. Klopp hailed the attacking performance from thereafter as one of the best of his coaching career. Both teams had chances to win the game, but Klopp was left baffled when the team were not awarded another spot kick in the last seconds when City's Belgian winger Doku caught McAllister with a high boot in the penalty area. Serie A side Lecce have decided to sack manager Roberto Avassa after he headbutted a rival player on Sunday following their defeat to Hellas Verona in the league. Avassa was seen confronting striker Thomas Henry when appearing to headbutt the forward in a clip that appeared on X, formerly known as Twitter. The manager approached Verona staff and Henry after the match before launching towards the striker. Thomas immediately fell to the ground before staff members from both sides and officials quickly tried to break up the confrontation. Following the incident, officials sent off both Henry and Avassa, but only the latter has been officially dismissed by his club. Avassa took charge of Lecce back in July, but has only led them to 15th in the Serie A table, having won just one of their last 12 fixtures. Verona meanwhile sits 13th in the table thanks to the victory over Lecce, with Michel Foluchon's 17-minute strike proving the difference between the sides. Lecce will hope they can turn their form around when they travel to last place Salernitana for their next stop fixture. And talking Formula One, team principal Christian Horner insisted nobody is bigger than the team after Red Bull claimed a second successive 1-2 in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix despite the scandal convulsing the Formula One outfit. Max Verstappen claimed his second win in 2 races in 2024 and his 9th straight victory dating back to September, leading teammate Sergio Perez to a Red Bull 1-2. It continued the crushing superiority Verstappen has had over the Formula One field for nearly 2 years, but talk quickly turned to the Dutchman's future. Horner had been seen arguing with the driver's father, Jos, who wants him to leave in midweek after the team boss was accused of inappropriate behavior towards a female member of staff. And wrapping it up, still talking Formula One, Red Bull have denied suggestion that Christian Horner could be sacked before the Australian Grand Prix after reports team shareholders met in Dubai on Sunday night. Horner's position as team principal has been the subject of intense speculation after he was accused of inappropriate behavior by a female employee before the start of the 2024 season. An investigation cleared Horner and it appeared that he would retain his position within the team before alleged messages to the complainant were divulged to a number of media outlets and Formula One figures. Advisor Dr. Helmut Marko then revealed that he was thinking about leaving the team before accusations of leaking evidence over Horner's behavior, with Max Verstappen vocal in his support for his mentor, claiming he could not continue without the Australian. Marko then insisted he would not be leaving the team following the crunch talks. Horner's ex-Spice Girl wife, Jerry Halliwell, has continued to publicly support her husband, appearing at both the Bahrain and Saudi Arabia Grand Prix events. And that's how we call it a wrap on the Sports News Update. I am Anthony Momodu.